Good evening and welcome to Cherries Red Army to both sets of fans for our first live YouTube match preview Premier League as Bournemouth open up against Aston Villa, just like in 2015 on Saturday. We've got a great show ahead. Do let us know if you're interactively joining us on YouTube. Pop your name in the chat and we'll show it on the screen in a minute. But we have got the match build-up. We've got guests from Bournemouth, Aston Villa. We've also got Dorset Live's new Bournemouth correspondent joining us, and we want to go through this game. We're going to get those match predictions, score predictions. We're also going to have a little guest to player quiz later on. So make sure you subscribe if you are new to the channel. We much appreciate your help as we grow on YouTube. Also hit the like button because that really does help. If you weren't able to join us live, do add your thoughts in the comments below. Also, this video is sponsored by Aquashine Exteriors, professional jet washing and cleaning services across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, including Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. Please do check out their details in the description, their website, their before and after portfolio, their socials on Instagram, and you can also get a free quotation with the number provided on the screen and in the description. Scott Parker takes on Stephen Gerrard at Dean Court. Very different for Bournemouth fans this time round. Yeah, it's not been an ideal pre-season, but we're going to get stuck into it. What's going to happen? We're going to find out. Let's get a view from both sets of fans. Let's get stuck into this first match preview.
Cheeky one, square, and
Welcome. Looking forward to this. Here we go, Aaron, Bournemouth fan. You'll be there Saturday. It's our first match preview. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Kirk. Yeah, looking forward to the game. Looking forward to this tonight. The juices are starting to flow. It's getting all very, very exciting and real again. And yeah, heading down tomorrow. So yeah, let it all begin.
It's a big season for AFC Bournemouth. It's a big season for this guy as well. Please welcome new AFC Bournemouth Dorset Live's correspondent, Dan Davis. Thanks for taking the call. Great to have you on. First of many, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to it. I mean, I echo, obviously, your opinions. It's going to be a really exciting season. Very challenging season for me professionally. But yeah, I'm really excited to get started properly.
Very warm welcome as well to our first opposition guest of the season. It's Justin from, I hope I'm saying it right, the Up the Villa podcast, but you can confirm me if you need to. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about the podcast and thank you for coming on for Aston Villa.
Thanks for asking me. Very kind. Yeah, it's a podcast that we started in COVID, really. A couple of my friend Luke, who I've been talking to for a very long time about Villa, who works in the same town as me, fancied starting a podcast, and he asked me if I'd come on it, and that was it, really. That was where it started from, and we started with not really any ideas of what we were going to do or how we were going to do it, but it's grown pretty quickly, really. We've got an online website as well, which does a lot of written media as well, which is all linked in, and it's growing really well. We're really chuffed with how it's gone, to be honest. It's really seems to have hit a chord with Villa fans, and people are subscribing and people are enjoying what we do. So, and we love talking about football. So we're basically the same as you guys. We've got a love of the game, and we've just got a different team we follow. That's all.
Fantastic. And your podcast is in the description below. So for anyone who wants to check it out ahead of this weekend, do head over there and check them out 100%. Let's get into this match preview then. Aaron, straight to you. Promoted from the Championship, second time of asking. Scott Parker got it done, first time round, got the remit, and we'll get stuck into this pre-season in a little bit, but we are back in the Premier League.
Yeah, I've said time and time again on this podcast and to others that, when we got relegated after 5 years of Premier League football, we got relegated, Eddie left, thought that was it, but we had it. It was an amazing experience. Never thought we'd get back again. So to be back, first and foremost, to be back in the Premier League again for a club, I keep saying, of our size, is incredible. So I'm just determined to enjoy it after 40 years of following us in the lower reaches. Whatever the season brings, just looking forward to it, and yeah, absolutely thoroughly enjoying it.
Justin, 4 years back in the Premier League now, I think, and expectations might be rising. I think you finished around 14th last season, but I'm sure you're going to be looking for a little bit higher than that this season.
Yes, last season was a bit of a roller coaster for us as a fan base. Obviously, started off with Jack being prized away from us to Man City for a big fee, which I think, to be honest, we didn't realise how much it was going to derail us. I think we all thought we could just move on and just crack on, and it didn't really happen like that. We had a very up and down start to the season, which ultimately led to Dean Smith getting replaced by Steven Gerrard, which again, another Villa fan through and through. Dean Smith, I can't remember a manager getting replaced that was so loved, to be honest, even when he went. The outpouring of love for him was something I haven't seen at Villa, really, or any club, to lose a manager and people be gutted. I think everyone understood why it was done. And then we brought in Steven Gerrard, and obviously expectations went through the roof. A manager of his sort of credentials, what he'd done in Rangers, albeit that was his only job. Obviously, his stature in the game brings a big reputation with it. And it was a bit up and down, to be honest. It was, we had, again, the second half of the season sort of mirrored the first, really. We had a few good results interspersed with the odd bad result, and then a loss of 5 in a row under both the managers last season. And ultimately ended up pretty disappointingly in 14th after we hoped we would probably crack the top 10 last season. So it's led to, hopefully, a more settled pre-season, which we have had this year. Continued investment from the owners, which we're forever grateful of, because ultimately in this game, if you haven't got owners who've got deep pockets, unfortunately, you're not going to make any kind of noise in the Premier League these days. So we're very grateful we've got that, and we're looking forward to the season.
I'm not sure how deep our pockets are, Dan, at the moment, but these are two teams going into the opening day of the 22-23 season with probably two different sets of expectations. Will Saturday be a little bit of a guide for AFC Bournemouth and Villa in where the season may play out?
Yeah, I really think it will. I think I will say the mood at Bournemouth has changed massively in the last couple of days. You have the extensions, there's news about players getting closer to joining, there's movement on that front. So things look a little bit rosier. Parker today was very insistent that, the key now is for Saturday to go into the game and just try and make the most out of it and just attack the game with everything that they have. I think that is very important to set the tone from pre-season. I think fans quite rightly were a little bit worried maybe that, they'd go in the 5 at the back and it wouldn't quite be that expansive, expressive style of play that we've seen from Bournemouth in recent years. Quite simply, Scott doesn't believe Bournemouth can play that way this year. So I think finding a balance this weekend will really help set the tone between how fans want the team to play on the front foot a little bit more than maybe we've seen in pre-season, but also being defensively solid. And obviously, you want to pick it. You don't want to lose your first game. It's that simple. It's a really tricky run to start the campaign off as well. That's the last thing you want to do is lose a few on the bounce, and then suddenly you find yourself near the bottom and the mood changes again. As for Villa, I mean, they've strengthened Bruni this summer as well. The team's looking great. Steven Gerrard's looking great. I see he's over your shoulder, Justin, as well. It's nice to join us this evening.
I always bring him with me, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's shaping up to be a massive game for both teams. Obviously, first game of the season, there's a long way to go, but it's a chance to really set out the marker for both these teams. So I'm expecting a good game. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Aaron. It's not been the ideal pre-season. 8 players left, end of contracts, end of loans. We've brought 3 in at the moment, 2-on-3 transfers that are unlikely to start on Saturday in Rothwell and Fredericks. Marcus Tavernier signed this week, so probably not likely to start, I shouldn't think. But Scott Parker definitely wanted to potentially change the formation. That would mean we would need new defenders. They're maybe on the radar and coming in before the window ends. But 3 losses out of 4 in pre-season is not a great way to go into this game. But as Bournemouth fans, we always remain optimistic.
Yeah, look, of course. I think, it's worth noting that, out of our starting 11 last season, we only really lost Nat Phillips. So 10 out of the 11 will be, will be. I got momentum, promotion. They played obviously together for a long time. Midfield and forwards are obviously all are, at the moment were prolific last season. And so the only real worry at the moment is that centre back position. So I think we might be surprised and play a back 4 against Villa on Saturday, which is what we're used to. I think we're best at, and playing 3 in midfield. So, yeah, you've got to be confident. I think the last couple of days, certainly from the Bournemouth fan base, has seen a lot of movement lot of rumour, substantiated by people like Mark McAdam, and obviously Dan's written about it as well. And very, very sort of well respected people in the media talking about bids, names for bids signing coming in. So we're all quite optimistic about that. Probably a good time to play us, Justin, because obviously none of those will be available on Saturday. But I think it will be a marker to some degree. But I also think reminiscent somewhat to last season, where we started with a lot of unknowns on the bench and some youth teamers in the first team. We obviously strengthened as the season went on. So hopefully we're not going to wait too long, but I would like to think within the next couple of weeks we'll have at least a couple of centre backs, a backup goalkeeper. Obviously names have been out there and strengthening, so hopefully the mood will change radically in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we've got to go into it positive. As I said, we're the home team, we've got a good home record. It's always a tight ground to play at, and yeah, we've got to just play off the momentum of last season. As I said, going forward, we still got a lot that midfield and the fullbacks and the forward line to hopefully give Villa some sort of trouble.
Now, Justin, looks like it's been a pretty good pre-season for you. I've done a bit of scouting preparing for this game. I don't think you've lost in pre-season. I think there's more wins than draws. Some players have also been doing very well. I'm hearing Bailey's had a good pre-season. So Tell us about your pre-season, potential players you've brought in, Coutinho on a permanent deal as well. You must be pretty happy with where you are right now.
You can see by the smile on my face, I'm very happy where we are at the moment. Yeah, good pre-season. First time we've been away on a really significant pre-season tour for a very long time. Even pre-COVID, went to Australia and played 3 games over there. Played Leeds United and Manchester United, so 2 Premier League games, and then we played Brisbane Roar as well in the middle of it. And they were all good run-outs, to be honest. We drew 2-2 with Manchester United after being 2-0 down at half-time. Second half display was very, very good. We beat Leeds and we beat Brisbane as well. We played our local side, Walsall, as well, and did well in that. And then we went to Rennes last Saturday, who finished 4th last season. They've had a good pre-season, and we were 1-0 down quite early in that game, and we ended up winning that one 2-1 as well. So all in all, I don't think really it could have gone any better this pre-season. The players that we've brought in were all brought in very early, so this sort of feeds on from sort of the ownership and the way our team and club is structured now. We've got Christian Perslow as our CEO. We've got the transfer way of doing things is very good at Villa now. We've sort of highlighted the players we wanted very quickly. We signed both before the transfer window even opened, in Diego Carlos from Seville for £30 million, I think. And the one that was pretty eye-opening for me was Boubacar Kamara, coming from France, who, a lot of European clubs were looking at him to come to them, top European clubs in the Champions League as well. So to get him on a free transfer was a real coup for the club. So that was, and we've been missing that number 6 for a very long time. So we've really, and the Coutinho, as you say, the Coutinho deal, we was all hoping that would be made permanent. But when the news broke that we'd got it done for £17 million in this day and age, it's mind-blowing to me. We sold our left-back, Matt Taylor, to Newcastle for £15 million. And he was backup left-back, and we've just replaced, definitely not like for like, but we've replaced him monetary-wise with a player of the quality of Philippe Coutinho for £17 million. So, yes, we've got a lot of good business done. We haven't gone massively heavy in the market with a lot of players. We've done that over the last 2 or 3 seasons since we got promoted. But it seems to be more quality now over quantity. And just making sure that things are fitting in well for the new season. So yes, I'm very pleased, very happy, and I think we're all buzzing, ready to go for the big kickoff now.
Now, Dan, there is a few questions I want to ask you about pre-season, about transfers. I think the club is very much looking at Bournemouth now and trying to do something with their infrastructure. Can we have a legacy this time? We know the training ground is massive. They're starting it. It's not going to be completed, but there's going to be pitches up there and a temporary office. And then did they potentially go into pre-season on the transfer basis, maybe being a little bit naive, thinking we could get some centre-backs on the cheap? And is it now a catch-up game and thinking we're just maybe going to have to pay a little bit more than we wanted to? That's my questions on the transfers. And it must be really good news, though, to see the players of Dom Solanke, Mark Travers and Lewis Cook adding their contracts, increasing their contracts for the protection of the club as well.
Like you just say on the training grounds, I think that's the legacy that the club wants to leave. Regardless of what happens with their Premier League status this season, that's kind of the big ambition. And you have to respect that. I mean, it's costing tens of millions of pounds, and that's going to be the lasting thing that they leave behind, like I say, no matter if they go down or not. I think, that's been in the pipeline for a while. There's frustration that all sort of work on that it's been quite slow, but it seems like there's a real progress on that front now, which is great. I wouldn't say the club have been particularly naive. It's obvious there's not money to throw around like a lot of Premier League clubs. We made the point earlier that it's hard to make a real impact on the top flight if you don't spend money. And of course, that's correct. If you don't spend money, you're sort of entering the season with one hand tied behind your back. But then also on the flip side, spending money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to guarantee yourself success. So again, I think it's a club being quite sensible with how they're going about things. But obviously, the progress has been slow. Really, Scott Parker, who said today he would have wanted his players to have come in 3 months ago, and that's how he's kind of always wanted to work. It's by getting his players in nice and quickly. Especially with his system, it takes time for his individual players to get up to speed with exactly the demands that he's after. So that, I think, has been a real source of frustration for him, and that's reflected in his comments post Bristol City and post Real Sociedad. So, yeah, I disagree that there's been naivety. I think the club will be just as frustrated as the supporters in terms of how the transfer market has unfolded for them. Obviously, there's now some real movement and momentum on that front, which is putting a very positive spin on their preparations ahead of the new season. And just on the extension front, I mean, it's brilliant. It shows that, Bournemouth have been written off by a lot of people. I haven't seen many season predictions that don't have Bournemouth rock bottom. I'm not saying for a second that's where they're going to finish. That's just the kind of consensus from quite a lot of clubs and other supporters, which is, it's hard to argue against something like that when you do compare who clubs are bought in and who Bournemouth have bought in and the lack of potential business at the moment. So it's down to the players and Parker to really sort of push against that. The contract renewals will be a big part of helping them actually do that. It shows that there is still a long-term excitement. There's a long-term project going forward under Scott Parker. There's a lot of patience there as well. So that's great. And obviously the players themselves are enthused about working under Scott. It's a really unified squad. There's some great characters in there. I'm really looking forward to getting to know them properly and speaking to them this season. So it does really seem like in the space of almost a few days, really, that the mood is really flipped from this kind of like, oh no, we're about to go into the season, everything's looking bad, to all of a sudden it's like, you know what, we've got these extensions, we've got players that are moving closer to joining, get a result against Aston Villa at the weekend, and suddenly things are looking a lot rosier.
We'll come to those later on. Aaron, you'll be sitting in that North Stand potentially on Saturday. Have you been given a lift because the performances haven't quite been there in pre-season? Is pre-season. We don't need to take it too seriously. But Dom Solanke signing a big deal doesn't mean he'll be a Bournemouth player for the whole term, but it does secure us, and it means that Eddie will have to pay 50 million if he wants to try and take him to Newcastle at some point. But has it given you a lift going into this game, still knowing there's a lot of work for us to do behind the scenes?
Yeah, look, for sure. I think there's two ways of looking at it, and then Dan touched on it as well. We keep harping on to the last time we got promoted to the Premier League with Eddie, that, essentially Josh King was the only real first teamer that I guess we really changed the team when we came in. So we came up with a team that, well, a lot of the team in League One, but came up with a team that basically won the championship, added Josh King to it, amongst others, but generally had the same team. So it's not necessarily a recipe for success spending loads of money. As Fulham found out 2 years ago, spending £120 million. Norwich spent 80 or 90 million last season. I think Watford spent a good chunk of 60, 70 million. They both went down 15 points adrift of safety. So the legacy of the training ground is important. Last time we left the Premier League without a legacy, fans quite rightly probably bemoaned that. So the same fans can't complain too much when we're trying to build that legacy at maybe the expense of spending tens of millions of pounds on players. But having said that, there is real movement. As we've been on air, I've been sent a message that AFC Bournemouth are now in advanced negotiations with Dutch outfit Feyenoord for Marcos Senesi and expected to come in for 15 million with add-ons. That looks like it's expected now. Whether we're going to get the likes of Nat Phillips or Twanzebe as well, or at least one of them, either on loan or whatever or not. So absolutely, I think this is a Villa preview. Then clearly not going to be there for the Villa game. The likes of Rothwell and Fredericks won't either. So I think there is optimism. I think with Liverpool and City away coming up, we could buy a whole host of teams and we could buy a whole host of players and still get spanked there. So ultimately, as long as by the end of people say games are going thick and fast, but as long as for me, by that Wolves game, and certainly Wolves and Forest coming up at the end of August, early September, if we have a settled squad there with players coming in and bedded in a bit, then I'll be optimistic. We'll come to what our thoughts about Saturday's game, but I'll snap your hand off for anything from that.
Dan, did you just send Aaron that update?
I didn't know. No. I'm too busy
Dan.
with this.
No.
I've only got 2 hands.
Right.
It was my son.
Justin, Steven Gerrard's first full season as Aston Villa manager. Has he been talking ahead of this game about what he wants to see from your Villa side, and what sort of lineup can we expect on Saturday? Because I've been doing my scouting. I think this is coming from your podcast, but that looks like your predicted lineup for the weekend. Do you want to talk about it and Steven Gerrard ahead of this season?
Yeah, he hasn't done the press conference as of yet for the game, so it'll be interesting to see what he does say. Yes, this is our lineup selector, which was launched today, actually, so it's brand new to the website. We did a sort of lineup episode last night, and to be honest, it's the only difference that I would see in my own mind was Tyrone Mings to play instead of Ezri Konsa. But apart from that, I think it's pretty much nailed on, to be honest, for that. There's a big debate over who will get the second centre-half spot next to Diego Carlos, who we all pretty expect to play. So the 3 positions really that are up for grabs are the second centre-half spot, Douglas Luiz or Aaron Ramsey in the midfield 8, and do you play Danny Ings or Ollie Watkins up front in the lone striker role? All very good problems to have, to be honest, because it doesn't really matter who you pick. They're all top players. Aaron Ramsey come through our youth team, who, our academy's absolutely flying at the moment. We've got so many good young players coming through there. I mean, we've even managed to let one go this today to Chelsea for £20 million. He's only played 4 games for us, so that wasn't a bad bit of money for us. But I think that's definitely the formation you'll see playing. You'll see the 4 at the back with the 1 6 2 8s. 2 sort of 10s with Coutinho and Bailey, who has probably cemented his starting position with such a good pre-season. And then 1 up top, either Ings or Watkins. I personally would plump for Watkins because I think playing Bournemouth suits him better because he gets in behind a bit better. He sort of plays off the last man a bit better. He's a bit more mobile than Danny Ings. Ings is more of a sort of in the penalty box sort of finisher.
Is he fit, Danny Ings?
Yeah, massively fit. Yeah, I think that's what he struggled with last season. I don't think he ever really got himself fully fit because he came in right at the end of the window. It was a bit of a surprise signing, actually, when Jack left. It was almost like a present to the other fans because nobody even knew he was coming, and all of a sudden they announced we'd signed Danny Ings. So I don't think he ever really got up to speed last season. We had Stephen Ward on our podcast towards the end of last season, who knows him very well from his Burnley days. And he said he's absolutely buzzing to go into a full pre-season and he really wants to show what he can do at Villa. And the fact we haven't gone out and signed a striker this summer shows that Gerrard has, given the 2 lads up front a lot of confidence to play. And that lad there on the screen right now, Cameron Archer, is a real proper player. Honestly, this kid could be, a real sensation. Everywhere he's gone, he scored goals. He had 2 loans last year to the Championship, scored goals. He made his under-21 debut for England, scored goals. He played in the League Cup against Chelsea for us, scored against them. He scored a hatful of goals in the Papa John's Trophy as well. And the Villa fans are really purring about him. And Gerrard has decided to keep him, not loan him out again, and keep him within the first team squad. So we've got a lot of options. And the 5 substitute rule really this season is going to benefit a lot of teams, I think. And, I think it'll definitely benefit us now. We've got quite a deep squad.
Welcome to everyone on this live stream. Please do hit the like button and subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Also, Matt Collins there, the Aston Villa fan. He's actually my work colleague. We've been having a bit of banter this week ahead of this game. So welcome, Matt. Knows his stuff.
Hi, Matt.
Aston Villa. Dan,
the Villa, Matt.
Trying to keep a clean sheet. Travers got 20 of them last season. Some of the players Justin talking about there, Coutinho, Jacob Ramsey, I like a lot, but there are players that have quality in the final third and they just need one chance. We used to have a player like that in Danjuma. They could go missing for 80 minutes and then just out of nowhere, Coutinho will just pull a 25-yarder out. And we have to be on it for 93 minutes on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the heartbreaking thing as well, is Scott can, tie up his team as much as he wants over the coming weeks. And then suddenly you come into Saturday, you defend well, you keep your line, and then Coutinho bends on from 25 yards top corner and you can lose 1-0 or something. It's harsh, but that's the Premier League, unfortunately. You play against the best attackers in the world. And if Bournemouth defenders aren't relishing that opportunity, then they're probably in the wrong business. It's pretty obvious he'll probably start at the back as well. Obviously, Scott's gone with the 5 at the back formation. But it's been brought in to actually do the business in games like this, to keep Bournemouth nice and tight, to pick up results. So, I mean, it's the main test, it's what pre-season has been for. All of the tactics, all of the formations, the tweaks. It's for games like this. It's for the entire Premier League. So yeah, it could be very interesting. The players that Villa have got that we've reeled off, I mean, it's an abundance of riches. Danny Ings as well. Obviously, he used to play for Bournemouth, so it'd be very, very cherries for him to come on and do something, potentially get a goal. So there's a lot to look out for. But I mean, the key will just be as tight as possible. And then when you're on the transition, you've just got to break with a lot of speed. And it's a good way of getting results in the Premier League.
Key thing there, Aaron. We need to turn with the ball with speed. Now, we had a lot of the ball last season in possession, but we do have to counter quickly if we're going to try and hold teams to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then take those chances, because we're not going to get 4 or 5. Potentially, we'll get 1 or 2, and we're going to have to be on it, aren't we?
Yeah, look, we dominated games last season. We're used to having a lot of the ball. Ironically, some of our best results came when we had less possession. And certainly, as we said before, our best results last season were against the best teams in the division. So we struggled against the lower teams who really had a low block against us. And teams like Villa and all the Premier League teams aren't going to come sit back against Bournemouth in the Premier League. So it could play into our advantage. But yeah, we've got to get the ball forward quickly. We obviously know Dom is incredibly strong, incredibly quick. But obviously he needs support with him, and the likes of Jayden Anthony or Junior Stanislas, Ryan Christie, etc., are going to play. Phil Billing, if he gets on the pitch with the new formation, that's going to be crucial, getting bodies to support Dom essentially, whilst keeping it tight at the back. It's going to be difficult, but as you say, you can concentrate for all that time, but one moment of magic, as we've seen before, can just ruin it all. So yeah, I think again, we got the ability to tweak possession, tweak the lineup, the formation. So if we do happen to start with a 5, that can very quickly become a 4 if we are chasing the game. So it'll be interesting to see what we go with.
Brilliant. Head to head, we got to take everything we can, Justin. So I'm trying
I've seen this head to head. Yeah.
So Bournemouth have won the last 3. There's not many games between the teams. We won the last time you visited Dean Court. That was 2-1. Nathan Ake got himself on the score sheet. First question for you, are you going to the game? Are you able to get a ticket? And second question, how is it going to play on Saturday? What do you think the score prediction will be?
I'm not going to the game, actually. I'm in the studio at our local BBC WM,
nice.
covering the game with it's a bit like a Soccer Saturday style thing. So I've been invited in there. So that's going to be amazing. Really nice experience to have. How do I think it's going to go? I don't want to sound very disrespectful, because you guys are very nice guys. I have a feeling it's going to be a very much a feeling of an FA Cup tie, to be honest, like a top championship. Because you haven't improved the squad, because you're going into it a bit cold. I've read all of the Scott Parker's sort of what he's been saying this week about not being in the position he wants to be in, and 6 days to go to the start of the season. We're nowhere near where I wanted to be. The signings haven't flowed in. There does seem to be a bit of a lull around Bournemouth, and I think, like you said at the start, it's a good time to play you. The only thing I'm slightly worried about is that it's first game of the season, so you've got no baggage. You're not bringing any baggage into the game at all. Like, you could have gone and lost 3 or 4 and then played us, and then you're really down the dubs. So you've got nothing to lose. That's the only thing that concerns me. And at the end of the day, anything can happen in football, can't it? And as we found out last year when Watford took us to the cleaners in the first day. I'm confident. I have to be confident in my team with what we've done so far, with the pre-season we've had, with the way we're looking up the table now. The manager's already spoke that he wants to be 7th. That's his target. I think that might be a bit beyond us this season. Top half definitely. So I'm really confident that we're going to get a win on Saturday, if I'm brutally honest. And it might be not very nice for you guys if we do get on a bit of a purple patch.
Was there a number in your head, just out of interest?
Yes. Can I say it off screen? I predicted a 4-0 win to Villa. Now, that's if ever you've watched our podcasts, I am always the glass half full guy.
Right.
Again, it's a very hard coming onto your podcast and slating you, and not slating you as a club.
It's fine.
Because like you say, like Aaron said at the start, you can only admire what Bournemouth have done in the last 10 years. It is a phenomenal footballing story. You know, it's a 13,000, is it? 11,000 capacity stadium. You know, Worcester in League Two by us have got a bigger stadium. So, you know, if you're going on those kind of metrics, you shouldn't be in the Premier League. You should be nowhere near the Premier League. So to do what you've done, you lost your manager when you went down, and not getting back up the first season, I thought you'd be done for, to be honest. So to regroup and come up the second season is even harder, because that happened to us, because you can easily get just cut adrift in the Championship, as Forest have found for the last 20 odd years. So I've got nothing but respect for Bournemouth. I think they're a fantastically run football club, and I really hope you have a great season. I just think Saturday, the season's come too early for you, if I'm brutally honest. But I don't think it's going to be a metric for the season, because I think your season will start when the transfer window ends. That's how I see. And I think as long as you can hold your own for the next month and not get cut adrift, once you get your players in and things start to calm down, I think you can start picking points up. Ultimately, I would presume your aim is to finish, 40 points and fourth bottom, and that'd be a great season.
Snap your hand off. We can absolutely take it, Justin. We appreciate you coming on as our first opposition guest this season. Wish you all the best for the season. Hopefully you don't win, especially by that scoreline on Saturday. But do check Up the Villa podcast out. Details in the description. And thank you, Justin, for coming on.
Thanks, guys. And also, Ryan's Thomas say thank you for helping out on the one of our written pieces as well.
No worries. Absolutely fine. We have got lots more to come in this
All the best,
preview, so stay with us. Jon Spark is backstage. He's coming on to help us with those match predictions. We've also got a little quiz coming, so you can get involved interactively, because we're going to guess the player. Here we go. Hello, John. Welcome to the stream. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Kirk. Nice to be back on again. And keep the positivity going, at least before a ball's been kicked. Anyway.
Fantastic. Did you have a review of that first half of the match preview? What you heard, the Villa perspective, as we go into this quiz before we do?
I suppose the thing for me was forgetting how much business the Villa did so early on in the season. Obviously, it was, if you just Google Aston Villa transfers right now, the big news is they lost Chukwuemeka for 20 million to Chelsea, but for a player that's barely featured for them, that's not too bad. But yeah, they're going to be a really tough opposition. We know how strong their attack is. The likes of McGinn, who I really like, Buendia, Ings, Watkins, Cash, Martinez is one of the best goalkeepers outside the top six.
Yeah.
Mings is obviously a player that may or may not feature, but we know well. It's as much as Villa is not one of the hardest games we could have got on an opening day fixture, it's certainly far from the easiest.
Sorry, Dan and Aaron, it feels like I've shuffled you up on the subs bench there. You've rotated round, but you'll be much involved as we continue. Right. This is new to our match previews. Nothing too stressful. Just to break it up a bit, we're going to guess the player. How this is going to work is I'm going to give you a set of clues. One clue at a time. You're going to get 5 seconds, guys. You just got to guess the player. One clue, 5 seconds, another clue, and the first person to get it wins. You can get involved in the chat. Don't use Google or anything like that. Okay, and it's as simple as that. So here we go. So the first clue. And when you're guessing this player, there is some sort of connection to either both clubs, or they've played in the match, or they've had an impact in a match between Bournemouth and Aston Villa. So there is a connection to a Bournemouth and Aston Villa match, okay, or the teams. So the first clue was he was born in 1987. With your 5-second countdown. And if you know the answer, just shout at me saying I've got it, and then you can tell me it. Second clue. Is he played in League One, the Championship, and the Premier League?
Is it Danny Ings?
Oh, no, it's not Danny Ings. Shall I let him have a second chance, guys, or should we just say once you've given
Oh,
your
I
answer?
didn't realise it was a lockout.
Yeah, keep him in. Keep him in.
Let him continue.
Yeah.
He's still
Why
bound to
not?
get it.
Why not?
Born in 1987, played in League One, Championship, and the Premier League. The third clue is he's 6'2" and right-footed. The fourth clue is he's a defender. They're not very good, these, are they?
Shocking.
Clue 5 is he's played 142 games for AFC Bournemouth.
Oh,
Gary Cahill.
Is it Tommy Elphick?
It's Tommy Elphick.
That is a
Ooh.
sensation. Yeah.
Only gone and got it right, and just
Well
to
done.
prove it as well.
Oh,
well
man.
done, John. The first
Cahill
one of
hasn't
the
got
season.
140
Well
games
done.
for
Got it
Bournemouth.
right.
Easy
He's only
to
Euro.
forget that he played for Villa. Easy to forget that he played for Villa.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Little bit of fun there, guys. Did anyone else get it in? They've gone. Oliver Harrison went. Steve Cook. Daniel went for Mings. Smith. But there we go. That's our first guest the player of the season in this match preview. And we've got the match predictions coming very soon. And that will lead nicely, Dan, to the presser that we've sort of covered a little bit about. But Scott Parker did seem a little bit more positive. That's probably with the news that certain bids are in for certain defenders. But he did tell us that some of the transfers that have come in are not available yet. Do you think Marcus Tavernier could get a game? But he did talk about, you've mentioned it, let's talk about it again, about needing to show some heart because there might be a difference in quality between the teams on Saturday.
Yeah, I tweeted about it yesterday that Bournemouth's best moments historically have come when the entire club is united. I think that's so important. And during this preseason campaign, it's the splinters that we saw at parts last season have kind of resurfaced again, which is a shame. And obviously you don't want that to kind of undermine and affect your preparations for the new season, especially back in the Premier League. So it's been tricky for Scott to deal with. I understand, of course, that he's frustrated with the situation, but it seems like you can see him there laughing away. He had a smile on his face today, which was great to see. Scott, he's incredibly affable, and you can tell he's just very determined now to move on. He knows he can't affect the transfer front too much. All he can do is manage the resources he's got available to him. It seems like the current crop of players that he has as of today will be the same crop of players he has for the weekend. Obviously, he's been dealt a bit of a bad hand with the two injuries. You get two new signings and certainly both get injured, which obviously is a blow. Marcus, you'd expect him to play some kind of role at the weekend, definitely not from a start, potentially from the bench. Scott today briefly touched upon, they've had conversations about where Marcus believes his best roles are. We know he can play central midfield just off the left or left wing back as well. Still kind of trying to work out exactly whereabouts his best spots are. So I wouldn't expect to see him thrust into the firing line yet. I think the lineup that we see, and obviously we'll touch on this, will be quite similar to what we saw at the Sociedad game. So, yeah, I mean, 6-man bench against Sociedad as well. You have some numbers back for this weekend too. So, yeah, it's very much, everyone sticking together. Like I said earlier, it's a great squad. The manager is very, very, very determined to extract the best from them. And we'll see what they've been working on this weekend.
So we need to put ourselves into Scott Parker's shoes because at this part of the show, it's the predicted 11 and those match predictions. You're going to be able to get involved in the chat. Right, I'm going to bring up that pretend football pitch in a moment, but we do need to clear something off, guys. I don't believe, Dan, I'm going to come back to you first, but I'll go around the room very quickly. I just can't see him playing a free on Saturday. I might be completely wrong. I think it's a ploy. If he goes with a free, for me, Lerma's got to go in there. He's not going to play Meppen and Hill. I wouldn't be shocked if he did bring out the back four and then fitted a formation to work that to get the likes of Billing in. That's where I am right now. Are we really thinking that he's going to go with a back three? And in the chat, do you think it's a back three on Saturday?
I mean, if after all these preseason friendlies and him airing his frustration and belief that the team can't play a four, and he then plays a four on Saturday, I'll be very surprised. I will be massively taken aback. I really will. You could be right, and if he does do it, it will catch Aston Villa off guard. Absolutely, like, tactical genius if that happens. But I genuinely feel he doesn't believe with the current resources he has that he can play with a 4. So I personally believe that we'll see a 5, the 3 centre halves. Lerma could very well drop in there. I thought he was excellent when he did play there in pre-season. He's played there before. He has the attributes to perform that kind of sweeping role. That deepest defender quite nicely, and obviously his passing range from the back as well was excellent. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but then from what I asked him after the Bristol City game, effectively, if that is his first choice defence going into the Premier League season, and he effectively said yes, it is. Obviously, if that is correct, we'll see Mepham and Hill start the weekend.
Aaron, are you expecting to see a back 3 before we bring on the pitch to pick those players?
As Dan said, it would be surprising. I don't think it's a ploy. I certainly don't think it's a ploy that he's been trying to fool everyone. I think if he was to play a 4 on Saturday, it was genuinely because, as you've kind of pointed out, James Hill is probably not ready. And for me, it also nullifies a lot of our other positives around other side of the pitch. It leaves you with only 2 in midfield. Now, 2 in midfield, for me anyway, as Eddie found out, just doesn't often work in the Premier League. It doesn't, because most teams play 3 in midfield. Villa are going to play 3 in midfield. We know that. So already you might, have more players at the back, but you're going to be outnumbered in midfield. Alternatively, you can play the 3 in midfield and 2 up front, but then you're relying on width from the wing backs. Adam Smith isn't necessarily going to get up and down anymore. Jay-Z certainly will. I think things will look very differently in a couple of weeks' time if he brings in certain defenders who he wants. But I personally, again, this is what I would do now. I would play a 4 against Villa, because I think, as good as Villa are, we spent the last 45 minutes talking about their dangers, and they are a hell of a team. They're not a top 6 team, potentially not even a top 8 team. So, and we're at home first day of the season. I think we've got to go for it. I think we've got to try and flood that midfield a bit, put them on the back foot as much as possible, because I think you're asking for trouble. I don't know is the answer to that question. Scott will probably well stick to that back 5, but I think we're going to struggle anyway. But I think we will struggle with those 3 centre backs that we have available to us. Again, to coin a Scott phrase, no disrespect to them, and then also lose out in midfield. So you're going to weaken yourselves in 2 or 3 areas of the pitch, in my opinion.
John, these predicted lineups last season in the Championship were pretty easy. We've got to try and nail a predicted lineup in 7 minutes. Going to give you the deciding vote. I'm going to bring the football pitch on the screen. Are we going with a back 3 on Saturday?
Unfortunately, we are. Yeah, I think it's and to me, it's not necessarily the back 3. It's the midfield 2 that I think is. Yeah. I would be if we played a 5-3-2, I think we could actually make that work really well, because Christie can play anywhere, and I think the worry of some people with playing a 5-3-2 would be, where does Anthony play? But I think he can fit in certainly. But I just think that midfield 2, it nullifies a lot of what Billing was able to do well, and we've seen what Billing does in a midfield 2 before, and it didn't work brilliantly. And I think it just leaves us a little bit light. As much as, yes, you want to stop players when they're close to the goal from scoring. That's what the back 3 is there for. You want to stop the creative players as well. You need to get people to stop the passes as well. And you can't do that as well when it's a 3-on-2 and you're outmatched in the middle of the park. So it's a really difficult balance. But I think Parker has tried back 3 and he's going to stick with it.
You got your way. All right, we'll go with a back 3. Right, Dan? Coming to you, I've put a few names in there already in the chat as well. We're going to go level by level. Travers is in there, 20 golden clean sheets last season. I put Lloyd Kelly to the left. So, Dan, for me, it's Lerma and Mepham, or it's Mepham and Hill. Are you thinking the same? I want you to fill that back line up for me, please.
My current prediction, and again, he could easily switch to 4. This is not going to age well. I think I'd be surprised if he was to throw Hill straight in, considering his inexperience. But then I guess he's featured a lot in preseason in that position out of necessity more than anything. I don't think he'd be particularly worried about putting him straight into the firing line, to be honest. I feel like Lerma, as much as he can fill in that position does negate quite a lot of the qualities he brings in that double pivot that I'm expecting. So if I'm having to go between Lerma and Hill, and I could decide this, and it'll be 9 o'clock by the time we finish, I still don't know. It's a 50-50 for me. I think he'll go Lerma just for the extra safety. But again, he could easily throw Hill in.
Okay. Aaron, so we potentially going for a middle two. I've got Jordan Samora that can tuck in, obviously, to make a 5. Smith, I don't expect to be too expansive, so we're likely to be more expansive down the other side. If it's a midfield 2, you're not putting Billing in there, surely not.
Well, this is the thing now. We've now decided on the back 3, right? So we're leaving ourselves with 2 in midfield, which is bad. So let's take the most energetic ball-winning midfielder out of those 2 and put him out. So if we are going to play a 2, let's not put Lerma in there. I mean, that's just. I mean, if Scott does that, then it's dumbfounding me because we at least, you know, with Lerma in the 2, he can cover a bit more ground. Lewis Cook's obviously 1. No, Billing shouldn't be anywhere near a midfield 2. No, he can't be. We know.
Will he be?
You know,
is the question. This is Scott Parker's predicted 11, Aaron.
Well, I tell you, in all honesty, I came into this preview far more optimistic and bubbly than I have been the last few days, and this lineup we're doing now is depressing me again, honestly, because it really is, because you know, I do think we have a chance against Aston Villa with a 4-3-3 formation, play it like we can. If we're literally going to play a 2 and Lerma's not one of those 2 and Billing's one of those 2, you might as well play Pearson there, because I think Bear Pearson can do a job at protecting the defence.
Okay. Well,
so if we're doing what Scott's going to do, he'll put Billing in there, yeah.
He could put Tavernier in there, because I spoke to a Borough podcast and they said he was very good in the number 8. But is he likely to bench someone who gave him 10 goals and 10 assists?
I just think we're going into this season at the moment anyway, with a bit of a threadbare squad. But what we do have, as I've said before, is 99% of our stars line up from last season. So until we have the players in who he wants to build in to bring in a formation, play the players who played last season and they were successful for the most part, because you're starting to put round pegs and square holes all over the pitch. And I think you're asking for trouble. But no, for me, if we're going on what Scott's going to do, I think Billing probably will start in there. I don't think Tavernier will start tomorrow. I'm trying to think who else could even be in there. And I mean, as John said, Christie could go in there. I mean, it depends what you want that midfield 2 to do. You know.
Right, John, we didn't score against Aston Villa in 2015 when we came into the Premier League. On Saturday, we need to score, and likely players up top are going to help us do that. Dom's in, of course he is, 29 goals in the Championship. Who plays either side of him? Probably too early for Tavernier. Christie, Anthony, Sariki Dembele, Jamal Lowe. Fill me up with that team, please.
I'll ignore the way you phrased that. The left winger is actually I'm almost is like okay. So left winger would be Jadon Anthony. I'm almost a little bit disappointed that Rothwell's injured, because from what I've heard of how he performed in pre-season, I was fascinated by the fact that he was lining up at left wing, because obviously he's played as a 10, 8 and 6 at Blackburn, and certainly the further forward he got on the pitch, the better he was doing for Blackburn. And suddenly to find him at left wing, I was a bit completely dumbfounded. But from the sounds of things, he had an amazing pre-season, was really doing a very good job as a very narrow inside forward that could be a lot more box to box, get a lot more involved in the action and support Solanke as a presser and a passer. However, Jadon Anthony is one of those players that could only be with us for another season. I think I rate him so highly. And if he performs the way that he performed in the Championship, the intelligence that he has got on the ball, the passes that he picks out, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Prem. He's had his games where he's gone missing, but when he performs, he can make us tick from high up the pitch, and his pressing is fantastic. So I think there's no doubt Anthony is going to start at left wing, and then right wing, you've pretty much only got one option. I mean, you could play low, but it's going to be Christie. The thing that, although to be fair, Junior Stanislas would be a really good option. And I was going to say,
before he gets injured in training, get him on that pitch.
If he was a little bit fitter, if he'd had more minutes, then I think Junior Stanislas is. If he stays fit, he could be the difference in keeping us up. He's just, because he disappears from our thought processes for months and years at a time, you forget how good he is. And I do think that I do prefer him off the left, because I want him to come inside into the spaces and take shots. But actually, from open play, he's by far the best crosser of the ball we've got. His crossing from open play is ridiculous. From a dead ball, I think he can go missing, but from open plays, he's fantastic as a crosser as well as just being involved. Obviously, he scored the goal against Real Sociedad from open play, coming in and making that run and keeping ball, finding him well. So I think Christie will start. I think Parker has a lot of faith in Christie. He's great as a presser, works really hard. He just doesn't put up enough numbers in goals and assists, really, and you need that from your attackers. He scored 3 goals, I want to say, last season, and one of those, his first one, was very debatable whether it was even on target with the massive deflection that was against, I think it was Cardiff. But he started like a house on fire with assists for us, and I'm just hoping he gets back to that. I think he can link up really well, and I do think the fact that Adam Smith last season didn't really bomb on and provide enough support as an attacking outlet, someone that takes away defenders. Last season did hinder his impact. So I think he works better with Stacey. But I think if we're playing with wing backs, then hopefully that won't be as much of a problem and Smith can get forward more. But I want to see a lot more from Christie this season in terms of goals and assists.
I'm going to lock that lineup in just a moment, but we've had a good conversation. Someone that just goes from your mind, Dan. Junior Stanislas, like John says, he barely had any minutes last season. In the minutes he had 2 assists. Ridiculous sort of ratio against games. Comes on and gets a goal against Sociedad, and this is why the club and Scott Parker were keen to get him on a contract. But they have to keep him fit, Dan.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I mean, when he went through against Sociedad, I didn't think for a second he'd miss. And you can put other players in that position and maybe not feel confident that they'll hit the target or the keeper will save it. I just knew he'd roll it in, and it's just the sheer composure. It's a really experienced head on those shoulders, and it's like you said, the issue is just fitness, and it's
a class act.
It's such a shame. Yeah, he really is. Lovely bloke off the field as well. Really popular within the squad. Scott Parker loves him. It's just you got to keep him fit, and unfortunately, if you can't prove that you can play run of matches in the Premier League, you're not going to get a lot of action. So that's really the area to improve. But it's been the story of his kind of time at Bournemouth, really. And it's frustrating. It's a case of maybe what could have been. Obviously, last season missed out so much, and obviously Bournemouth got promoted in the end. All was good. But just imagine, what he could have done if he was actually having minutes on the pitch. So, yeah, I echo your thoughts. It'd be great to see him this season. I really hope we see a lot more of him. And like we said before, he could be very key to keeping Bournemouth this season as well.
Never know. Might come off the bench on Saturday and score a screamer. But that is our locked-in predicted 11, what we think Scott Parker will do, our first Premier League one of the season. Do you agree or disagree? If you weren't able to watch this, do let us know in the comments. Those score predictions, they're on their way.
Can I just say very quick?
Now you can say what you needed to say, Aaron.
I was just going to... Didn't warn me about that little intro. I was just going to say that two things to negate my negativity on that lineup is, number one, obviously Lerma could then push further forward if necessary to play with Lewis Cook, and then Billing pushes further forward. And the other thing is that, as we've said before, Smith can tuck in more and let Jay-Z go. So it's more of a back four. So it is a back five, but it could be flexible. So let's wait and see.
Right, we're going to reset the chat at Sammy11, and this is your opportunity to put your score predictions in the chat. You've got about a minute and a half. The guys are going to think about their score predictions. We're not the only game going on in game week 1 in the Premier League. So the other fixtures in England this weekend is Crystal Palace starting tomorrow night versus Arsenal at home. Fulham against Liverpool for the early kickoff on Saturday. Bournemouth against Aston Villa. Newcastle at home to newly promoted Nottingham Forest through the playoffs. Tottenham taking on Southampton. Leeds versus Wolves. Everton versus Chelsea. Leicester versus Brentford. Man United versus Brighton. And West Ham against Manchester City. Don't think I've missed anyone else off there. Dan, focused on Bournemouth this weekend. Too early to focus on other teams, but any other matches that fancy you liking in that?
I'm really liking the look of, I think Palace Arsenal has the potential to be great. Obviously, the season opener as well, I think we're all looking forward to it. It's felt like it's been a long time since we've had the Premier League back. Two intriguing lineups. I like both managers. I think the way they play, very expansive, easy on the eye. So I'm looking forward to that. And obviously, my focus, of course, is mainly on Bournemouth. I can't wait for that to kick off at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
Absolutely not. Can't wait to get back in the North Stand and enjoy, hopefully, a good game of football. So get those score predictions in the chat below. I know you've been dropping them throughout the show, but this is your opportunity to build them up, and I'll show them on the screen in a moment. Right, let's go around the room. I'm going to start, guys. We didn't score against Aston Villa in 2015. Have to be optimistic. Let's see how we play. I'm hoping we can get on the front foot a little bit, especially when we turn the ball over, and hopefully we can create some chances for our golden striker, Dom Solanke. Snatch anyone's hand off for a point, and I'm going to go for 1-1 and the Lins maybe in the last few minutes just to get a draw, and we've got a point on the board, John. So I'm going for 1-1. What are you going for, John?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Oh, wait, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, it's a difficult one. The thing that I do try and stay as positive as I can about is our record in the Championship last season was actually best against the best teams. The teams that did want to come at us, we had the best record against the top 6, the top 10. It was the teams that sat back and asked us to break them down that were the teams that we struggled most against. And Villa obviously are going to have most of the ball in this game, and we are going to be forced to sit back for large chunks, and it's how effectively we can counter and how effectively we can press high up the pitch. I do think that's something that Villa maybe we might be able to catch them out on, is our high pressing. It's just about, can we get the actual turnover, and then can we take advantage of it? I think most people in the chat will see have gone for a draw. I think I'm going to have to agree with them, but I'm going to be a little bit, overly cautious. I'm going to say 0-0. Okay. I think we will sit back for large chunks of the game. I think we won't get very many chances at all, but I'm going to be quietly confident that we can catch Villa when they're not quite at their fluent best yet, and try and hold out for a point.
There we go. A couple of Bournemouth fans going positive for a draw. We've got 92 people currently watching on YouTube. Please hit the like button and help Cherries Red Army. Oliver Aaron says, Hart says 1-0 Cherries, Head says 3-0 Villa. So we can see the goal, Aaron, but Lerma gets pushed up the field. Billin gets further up the field. Come on, we get a draw.
I can see it. If we play like these boys put some sterling performances on last season. If the intensity's there, the shape's right, the pressing game's there, keep the ball like we know we can. They've all got the ability to do it. And we got someone up front who we know is a different player to when he was last in the Premier League and can put the ball in the back of the net. And we've also got a certain Kiefer Moore on the bench, should we need him, who's a goal machine for us. So look, I am going to be optimistic. I'm looking forward to the season. I think we say it's a bad time. It's a good time for Villa to play us. It might be a good time for us to play Villa. Everyone's a bit rusty, a bit raw. So a 1-1 draw for me, and I will be delighted with that.
All the pressure on you then, Dan. We've gone optimistic with a draw. Now, look, I think sometimes results in the Premier League at the end of the season are a bit strange, and sometimes at the start of the season they're a bit strange. And I'm sure you'd love nothing more, Dan, than to have real positive results to talk about in your write-ups this season. So how is it going to start at the weekend?
Yeah, I really would like to see a continued mood of positivity at the start of the season. Got some really tricky games in there. I think obviously Scott knows how important this game is. The squad know how important this game is. I think I'm trying not to alienate a whole fan base here. This is kind of the issue. Yeah, my head is saying draw. I think, just as a caveat to that, I think a lot will have to fall into place for Bournemouth to get that draw. I think tactically they're going to have to be bang on system. They're going to have to be tight and break better than we've seen in pre-season. There's got to be massive improvements on that front. Haven't been particularly impressed with the way that they've gone on the transition. I can see Villa scoring just because, like I say, it's a threadbare squad defensively. It's not looking too good at the moment. But I do feel like if we see that fighting spirit, that Scott was really focused on today. I can see a 1-1 draw, and I think that's a good result to take.
This is good. This is good. I weirdly feel confident going into Saturday until about 3 minutes in, probably. No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Fantastic. We've got the score predictions in there. Thanks for everyone who contributed in the chat as well. This has been an excellent opening preview for Aston Villa. I want to just put a big shout out to our monthly members. Massive contribution to the channel. Thank you to all of you who pay monthly to help us grow and continue what we're doing. You can become a monthly member or donate at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. We really, really do appreciate it. Also, thank you to our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors, for also sponsoring this match preview and the channel. Thank you very much. Hit the like button, subscribe if you are new. John, interesting. Here we go. It's all going to kick off on Saturday. Thanks for joining us in the second half, and we'll see more of you this season.
Yep, looking forward to it. Fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens.
Win, lose or draw, Aaron, we're going to be here. We're going to tell it how it is. We're always going to have an optimistic spin on it, but we're going for it Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yeah, back in the big time.
Dan, it's been great to have you on. As I said, we know you're going to be a busy man. Hope you can come on many more shows that we do, the variety of shows that we produce on the channel. Do tell everyone your Twitter handle, if you can remember it off by heart. And anyone who's not following you, get involved. Follow Dorset Live and follow Dan Davis.
Yeah, please do. My Twitter handle is at Dan_Davis20. Quick search, you'll be able to find me. I think that's right. It's not often I have to actually say it, so fingers crossed I've got it right. But yeah, I can't wait.
Description, I think.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited for Saturday, professionally, personally. Just that walk through Kings Park, the match day atmosphere. The stadium's really rammed. It's good to have it back in the Premier League. Don't take it for granted. We mentioned earlier the history of the club. Don't think for a second that being in the Premier League is it's normal. It's an amazing achievement and always will be. So just enjoy it, and fingers crossed some good results, and I'll try my best to keep updated with everything that's going on. It's going to be a busy end to the transfer window, I'm sure, so I'll stay on top of that.
100%. We'll keep an eye on that. Excellent. Lots of content coming your way, especially at the weekend. We'll get a match reaction straight after the game. We'll hopefully get some vlog information and a vlog reaction from the fans on the day as well. So make sure you stay prepared for that. Hit the notification bell because that tells you when new content's out, and keep following us on this journey. But for this evening, for this match preview, thank you to John, Aaron, Dan, and Justin from the Up the Villa podcast. That's your match preview. We'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Cherries. Let's go Saturday. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
Cheers.